At some point, coding alone is going to give you drastically diminishing returns. So after 15 years of working in tech, let's discuss exactly where you should be spending your time to give you the best possible outcome for a long-term career in tech. I first got interested in tech when I was like a teenager, doing various little projects at home on the crappy computer that I had, and then really got into it when I was about 16, and then went to college and did a software engineering course there. After that point, I went to university for 4 years before then starting in the tech industry. I'm 33 now, which means I've been writing code pretty much every day for the last 17 years, which sounds absolutely mental. And then actually working in tech for the last 12 or 13 of those years, something like that. Now, when I first started in tech, I assumed that you should just become the best software engineer possible. And what I thought that meant was just being the best at writing code, being able to solve any single technical problem just through the pure skill of writing code on the keyboard. And what I've realized is, that is a really good skill to have, but eventually you will get diminishing returns if you purely focus on that one area. So once you get past like the 4 or 5 year mark in your career, start to shift your focus to different areas. I don't just mean shift your focus to different technical areas. Start to understand all of the soft skills involved as well. Being able to communicate with people, being able to push back on ideas, understanding the technical architecture, understanding the entire process that it takes to build really complex software. I still think it's really important though to be exceptional at one particular thing so you can stand out for that one thing. For me, I think it's being able to work closely with designers and turn their ideas into really high quality UI and UX. And I don't just mean through writing good quality code, although that is important. I mean by deeply understanding that domain and being able to have really deep conversations with designers, understand the process that they've came to, being able to push back on ideas that maybe aren't that practical to implement, and also just to be really passionate about that area that you want deep expertise in it as well. Through being this kind of T-shaped developer, having these shallow skills across many different domains and then deep knowledge of one particular area, you will really start to stand out compared to a lot of your peers, and people will rely on you to solve certain problems and to be the expert on a certain domain. I heard about that idea of the T-shaped developer really early on, and I thought originally that it just meant purely focusing on the technical skills. So having some skills in database, some skills in serverless, and then maybe deep knowledge of front-end UI. But I've realized that a good T-shaped developer is actually someone that has all of the soft skills and deep technical knowledge of a certain problem domain as well. The one skill that you also absolutely need to have, particularly if you're working at startups or at large enterprises, is being able to write tests. And I know a lot of people say online that, they just use JS, no types, they don't write any tests. And that is absolutely fine if you're spending your own money or if you're spending your own time working on your own projects. Some people make highly successful careers doing this. But if you're spending someone else's money through, venture capital, any kind of investment, or if you're working on massive payment systems, writing tests is an absolute non-negotiable, because if you push bugs to production that could effectively lose massive amounts of money, then you can be held responsible as the engineer for pushing shitty code to production that you didn't test. In fact, the contracts that I've signed these days actually have a clause directly in the contract that say all of the code written must have at least 80% test coverage. And I know that sounds insane, but if you're working on a payment system and that could be pulling in millions of pounds a day, if you're pushing shitty code to production, you could be costing that company a lot of money. So if you want to go far at startups or enterprises, then that is a skill that you cannot skip out on. So learn good testing patterns, the difference between unit testing, integration testing, and understand the kind of tests that you should be writing to get the biggest bang for your buck and the kind of tests that you might be able to avoid. The next point I want to make is that if you want to be really employable for a long period of time, then you need to learn to communicate with people and be really approachable. Because a lot of the times, if you've worked in the tech industry for a long time, particularly in one city, for me, it's London, you'll meet people in jobs that will then leave and go to different companies, and they will have trusted you from the previous projects that you've worked on together and recommend you and get you hired, sometimes without even having to do an interview, which sounds pretty insane. But if you've proven a skill set and you've actually taken a project to production without too many problems, People can trust that you can do that again and again and again. Do not burn any bridges, because you don't know when someone might be offering an opportunity to you in the future. The reason this is so important to me, because the career path that I took was as a contractor. And this means that rather than working on all of the business as usual stuff, you will just come on to a particular project, get that project across the line, within a fixed time period. It could be 6 months, 12 months, even up to 2 years in some cases. But then once that project is finished, you just leave and then go to the next company and do the same again. This means that you will be interviewing often and you'll be moving around companies really often as well, because you're sort of a disposable resource. But the benefit of this is that the salaries are much, much higher, and you also get to work on a lot of greenfield projects and a lot of exciting stuff. And you also get to move around industries a lot. So by being a contractor in and around the London area, it means that I've been able to work in finance, marketing, travel, and all of these different kind of industries, and be able to get all of this experience from many, many different places to be able to sort of grow your skills. But having a network as a contractor is really important, so that you can constantly have a source of new opportunities coming in. So early on, try to be really highly technical, and then eventually move on to the soft skills, where you can start to be really approachable, really friendly, willing to discuss ideas, willing to accept critique on your own ideas as well, and be willing to work easily in a team and not be a cause of friction. I've worked with developers in the past that literally get offended just from being given a peer review on their code. So don't be this kind of person, because they just don't gel well with a lot of software engineering teams, and it causes a lot of problems. And I can promise you, from years of experience, I've seen these kind of developers and they just don't go very far at all. The worst kind of person is this sort of team member that complains about everything, but then is unwilling to do anything to fix it, even though they have the opportunity to. So that means you need to be proactive, not just approach people with problems, but approach people with solutions as well. If you think there's a problem in a system, or you're not happy with how the system is architected, make sure that you speak up about it early on, and you're willing to present solutions rather than just come into, say, management with a bunch of problems, because they have all of their own issues going on, and people really want to hire highly proactive people. And I found that one of the most highly valued attributes is being highly proactive. So if you can be that person, I promise you'll be at the front of people's mind every time they have a new project and they need to bring someone on to do it. So early on, try and get those highly technical skills nailed down, and then eventually move to the soft skills. Be really approachable, be really proactive. And from my own experience, that is the most effective way to remain highly employable for really long periods of time. But I hope that helped, guys. If you want to learn more about how to build and validate products as a solo engineer, I've made a video on that particular topic. Otherwise, I hope you like this kind of video. Let me know what you think in the comments, and I'll see you guys in the next one.